Greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the planet Earth, the John Campea Show, coming to you from right here on my YouTube channel. I'm, of course, your host, John Campea. It's an awesome honor and privilege, as it is every day, to have you guys joining us as we, a bunch of international friends, talk about our favorite things in the world, movies, movie news, a little bit of television here and there and all that kind of stuff. And joining us today, making his triumphant return, Mr. Robert Meyer Burnett. Robert, how you doing, sir?
You know, John, every time you do this, I feel like royalty.
Well, you are royalty, Rob. You are royalty. And speaking of royalty, we're joined by the princess herself, Miss Ashley Whalen. Ashley, how are you doing?
Hey, good morning. I'm doing great. I fell asleep to the Ted Bundy tapes last night, which made me have terrible nightmares, but it's pretty good.
But he's a pretty charming dude.
Yeah.
Yes, very charming.
Great guy.
Maybe he charmed you to sleep. All right, listen, guys, we got a bunch of things that we need to talk about. We got a bunch of main topics lined up for us to talk about. For instance, what is going to happen first, a $3 billion film at the box office or a $300 million film opening weekend? Can John Wick 3 actually survive in the month of May? We got Spider-Man's Into the Spider-Verse director jumping ship and going over to direct Puss in Boots. But before we get to all of those main topics, we want to go off the top with this. Now, of course, you guys know that there is a new X-Men movie, X-Men Dark Phoenix, is coming out. So they say, and we're apparently getting a new trailer tonight. We're apparently getting a new trailer tonight for the movie coming out in June. And yesterday, they dropped a new poster on us. Here's a look at the poster that we can see here. And of course, we've got the dichotomy. Nothing completely original. The dichotomy, like two sides of the coin there. Jean, Phoenix on the one side, the one group of mutants on one, the other group of mutants on the other, with a little figure there down on the bottom, which is kind of interesting. Rob, at any rate, you had a chance to take a look at this particular poster. What do you make of this new X-Men poster?
Well, it looks more like a comic book. I guess I'm going to call the movie now Dark Phoenix. From now on. Yeah, Dark Phoenix. You know, look, as we heard those early reports, I talked to a friend who saw a screening of it, and it made me already disappointed. But I've really enjoyed most of the X-Men franchise, and I really like the cast that started with First Class. This is their fourth movie, and I really want it to be good. I liked Apocalypse. That's how invested I am in this movie, and I want it to be good, man. I want it to be good, but unfortunately, I think it's going to be X-Men 3 Redux. That's what it looks like to me.
But what do you think of the poster? We're talking about the poster.
I like it. It looks like a comic book cover. You know, I think that it looks like a comic book cover. It has more. Here's what I've never understood about comic book movies. You have the greatest artists in the world. You've got literally tens of thousands of beautiful paintings and cover art, and you've got people like Alex Ross. They never tap these people to paint movie posters for them. It's so weird. I mean, I don't get it.
But is it that weird? Like, just because
it's weird, dude.
It doesn't necessarily like that style wouldn't necessarily appeal to the mass average movie-going audience, though.
Everybody loves Alex Ross paintings. Come on.
That's not true. They should, but that's not true.
They do.
So listen, you gave me your thought on the poster. Now let me give you the true bottom line about this poster. I agree with you 100%. It's actually a good poster. This is actually a pretty good poster. And you are absolutely right. It really does have a comic book cover kind of feel to it, which you are also right, doesn't actually happen all that often. Like, we don't often find these covers or these posters that actually are kind of reminiscent of a comic book cover.
Right.
And it does look really actually quite good. Now, the unfortunate thing here, though, is, of course, that you're right. We have both been hearing that the movie's actually not any good, and that's unfortunate. Now, hopefully, look, I've been told stuff before that doesn't actually end up being true. Like, I was told years and years and years ago that Adrian Brody, I was told by a pretty reliable source once that Adrian Brody was going to be Ant-Man. And I got on my site, the movie blog at the time, and said Adrian Brody's going to be a thing, until Edgar Wright then emailed me the next day to say, John, no, he's not. So there was that. I have heard that this movie is not very good. I've heard it's actually dreadful. I've heard it's actually quite horrendous. But we've heard things before that didn't quite end up being true. So I'm just going to keep my fingers crossed. I'm going to look forward to seeing this new trailer they're going to drop tonight. Hopefully it'll change a lot of minds. Hopefully it'll change my mind. But as far as just the poster goes, it's a pretty good little poster. I got no. It's a nice poster, and let's just see.
Can I blow your mind for a minute?
You blow my mind, please.
Do you know that there is an Adrian Brody hot toy?
No, like just Adrian Brody.
No, his character from Predators.
Oh, really?
There's an Adrian Brody hot toy, and there's a Lawrence Fishburne hot toy.
Adrian Brody is a fantastic actor, by the way.
I know, and he has a hot toy.
And he's got an Oscar on his mantle, too. A lot of people forget that. One of the best Oscar moments of all time, remember, it was Halle Berry presenting, and he won, and he came up and just planted one right on her. This is one of the funniest moments in Oscars. I thought it was great. It was a wonderful moment. All right. With that stuff out of the way, guys, let's move on to our main topics today. Now, how do we select our main topics on the John Campea Show? It's really rather simple. You guys select them by emailing me your topics and questions anytime, 24/7, to john@thejohncampeashow.com. That's john@thejohncampeashow.com. Guys, make sure you put the word topic in the subject line. And as always, guys, keep those emails to 90 words or less. With that down, Ashley, what's up first?
First email of the day is from Brant Anderson. Do you think the Pokemon movie will be a sleeper hit? This film wasn't on my radar, but each trailer has got me more and more into it. It also doesn't appear to have any significant competition when it is released, and the films that are, Hustle and John Wick 3, are counter-programming to the main audience. How successful do you think the film will be?
Well, first of all, the new Pokemon trailer, and by the way, it's not called Pokemon, it's Detective Pikachu. I understand why we're calling it a Pokemon movie, because it's a Pokemon movie. Yeah, Pika. By the way, last night I played that trailer in bed, and Anne was there with me. She said, "Oh, hey, let's check this out." And the moment when Ryan Reynolds goes, "Pika, Pika," she almost cried. Like, she almost cried. She thought that was so adorable. And it was adorable overload. But anyway, the new trailer dropped last night, and I got to tell you what, I thought it was great. I thought it was just as fun and entertaining as the first one. I'm not a Pokemon guy at all, but I thought, like, that first trailer caught us by surprise, really impressed us. This trailer has done no different for me. I think it looks fantastic, but it brings up a question. Look, when they first start talking about a Detective Pikachu movie, how well do you think it's going to do? And really, probably expectations were about here. But the emailer brings up a really good question, Rob. Could it be this thing could really, really surprise? Like, how big could this movie actually end up being? First of all, what did you think about the trailer? And then how big do you think this movie could actually end up being?
Well, first of all, I like the trailer a lot. And I don't know if you saw this, but there's also another promo thing with Blake Lively, his wife, and him.
I did not see that.
It's hilarious. I mean, the fact that they got Blake Lively, his wife, to be in this, it's a promo trailer where he talks about using method acting techniques to get into the role of Pikachu.
Oh my God.
It's hilarious. And I again, he's taken a little bit of his Deadpool marketing savvy and he's applying it to this Pikachu movie. And I have to say, first of all, I think the reason it's going to be a huge hit is, like, people like us are like, I'm not going to go see a Pokemon movie. But once you see the trailer, you're like, I got to see that Pokemon movie, and it's meta and weird. And I think it's brilliantly conceived. And Ryan Reynolds is Pikachu. Everything about this movie makes me want to see it. I mean, it's probably, I dare say it, maybe I'm going overboard, but it could be the Who Framed Roger Rabbit of the new generation.
Wow.
Yeah.
The interesting thing about this is that in many ways, and by the way, Rob, could I have you turn your headphones down just a bit?
Ooh, sure. Sorry.
It feels like this isn't even really a Pokemon movie. It feels like the trailers feel like a movie that one of the big elements of it is that Pokemon are real in that world. So it doesn't really feel like the traditional Pokemon movie. And I think that was a brilliant move, because I think if you did a traditional Pokemon movie, you're actually not going to attract that big of an audience. And that's just the reality. You do a movie this style, though, and you're going to get out the Pokemon fans. You're going to get out the people, like you were saying, Robert, like you and me, who may not be interested in a Pokemon movie, but this looks really good. And it was just a stroke of genius from the marketing. Because let's be honest here. Like, everybody always says, it reminds me a lot of the Power Rangers stuff. A lot of people have said for years, oh my God, if you make another Power Rangers movie, it's going to be $1 billion film.
Right.
And what we would do is we would point out, well, guys, let's look at the history of the Power Rangers movies that were in the box office, and they dropped off amazingly, and they really weren't that impressive results. But everybody still insisted it'd be $1 billion film. Of course, it came out, it lost the studio tons of money. then we got a lot of people saying, oh my God, if you make a Pokemon movie now, it'll be huge. Well, let's look. There have been 3 North American theatrically released Pokemon movies, okay? Let's take a look at them. The first one was Pokemon the movie. The first movie was called. It came out, I believe, in 1999. This is worldwide numbers. Worldwide, it made $163 million. Then the second one came out 1 year later, called Pokemon 2000 the movie. Made less money, made $133 million. Then they thought, let's put out another one. And they put out another one in 2001 or 2002 called Pokemon 3 the movie. And worldwide, it made $68 million. So historically, statistically speaking, you got nothing to point at to say that a Pokemon movie would be a guaranteed big hit. This is eerily similar to the Power Rangers situation, where you had these older Power Rangers movies, massive decline in interest. People weren't all that interested in it. We got the same thing here now. However, I don't think that this Pokemon movie is going to suffer the same fate as the most recent Power Rangers movie. Because whereas that Power Rangers movie was definitively a Power Rangers movie and all they seemed to try to appeal to were the original Power Rangers fans. And I actually, by the way, ended up liking the new Power Rangers movie. I don't know. I never thought I would, but I actually ended up enjoying it. But still, they really only targeted those original fans of it. And as a result, it ended up losing them lots of money. The big difference, of course, here, going back to what you said once again, Rob, is that this Pokemon movie, this Detective Pikachu, they are appealing to the original fans, but it feels like these trailers weren't designed for the original fans. It feels like they knew just have Pikachu saying Pika Pika and you'll get the original fans. Now let's make the rest of the trailer to really appeal to the average movie-going audience. Say, okay, forget the fact that it's Pokemon. Forget that it's Pokemon. Doesn't it just look like a good, fun movie? And we as audience members are going, hell yeah, it does. Now, I'll tell you what. I think this movie could be an $80 million opening movie. I think this movie could be an $80 million opening movie.
I'm with you. I just hope they don't miss the marketing campaign. You know the character Mewtwo?
Yes.
Hashtag Mewtwo.
Mewtwo. Will
the
they have
Mewtwo movement?
And will they have him versus, will they go back to the first one and have him versus his doppelganger? I don't know. We'll have to see. But I know a lot of the original Pokemon fans, when Mewtwo shows up at the end of that trailer from last night, I know there were a lot of original Pokemon fans who were very, very excited. Everybody else was like, it's a cat. But to a lot of other people, it was like, it's Mewtwo. So again, a very, very good job of appealing to both the original fans and trying to appeal to the average movie going on at the same time. They are balancing this marketing campaign really well, and it looks great. And I think this thing could be huge.
Yeah, me
I think
too.
it can be absolutely huge. So,
question. So this is
Yes.
this is a movie that is catered towards adults and kids alike. Like, what is this rated?
It feels like it. I gotta guess it's gonna be PG-13.
It's for the kid
Okay.
in all of us, Ashley.
Yeah, but some of them are very they're rated PG for kids, for parents
Right.
to take their children. I thought this movie wasn't on my radar, so I figured it was something like that. But now that I'm seeing little glimpses of it, it looks kind of like made for adults.
They should do versions of this movie with every ratings, and they can say we've got to have them all, so they can be rated PG. Sorry,
gotta have them all. Very, very funny. All right, what do you guys think? How big do you guys think at home that this movie could be, and what do you think of the trailers so far? Do you agree with us that they're really great and impressive, or are you thinking, they're not really doing it for me? Jump down in the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. Okay, with that down, Ashley, what's the next email today?
Next up is IRD Darkness. Really quick question. Which do you think we will see first, a $300 million opening weekend or a film hit $3 billion at the box office? Thanks for everything you do.
Ooh, these are two astronomical numbers. Like, you're talking about a film. First of all, let's keep in mind, we have only had 4 films in cinematic history make $2 billion at the box office. Just 4. And we haven't had very many, I think 6. I think we've had 6 films that have made over $200 million on their opening weekend. So that $3 billion total and that $300 million opening weekend, these are both very, very big numbers. Let's put it in perspective here. When we're looking at the 4 films ever to make $2 billion, most of them are nowhere close to 300 or $3 billion. Like, nowhere close. Because out of the number 2, number 3, number 4, they're all either 2 or $2.1 billion. Like miles away from $3 billion. So obviously we've got Avengers Infinity War at $2.04 billion. We got Star Wars The Force Awakens at $2.06 billion. Titanic at $2.18. And then way up there is Avatar at 2.7, almost 2.8. But even then it's over $200 million away from $3 billion. And we've had nothing in over a decade come anywhere close to whiffing $3 billion. Now, on the other hand, let's look over at the opening weekend numbers. I mean, Jurassic World at 208, Star Wars The Last Jedi at number 3 at 220, Star Wars The Force Awakens at 247, and Avengers Infinity War at 257. Again, nothing even comes within $40 million. Nothing even within $40 million of $300 million. So, Rob, this is tough. This is a tough one, but I'm going to tell you what I think will happen first. I think $3 billion will happen first.
Really?
Yeah, I do. And here's why. Because a movie, it's all about legs, right? It's all about legs and momentum. A movie can come out that does strike that nerve with audiences and get the repeated business, and it builds and it builds and it builds and it lasts and it lasts and it lasts. I think that is more likely.
Are you talking about movies?
Movies.
Okay, just checking because I was getting excited.
But when you're talking about opening weekend, you're not talking about the type of endurance legs that it has.
Right.
You're talking about capacity. And I just don't know. Like when you're looking, let me bring up these opening weekend box offices again. Look, I remember being in theaters for Jurassic World, and it's like every showtime everywhere was sold out. How could anything get much more than 208? Well, Force Awakens 247, Avengers 257. But I mean, you're talking about theaters that were all at capacity, adding 24-hour around-the-clock screenings and all this kind of stuff. And to me, it just kind of becomes, right now, I don't know how close we are to having the capacity to really facilitate a repeat of that, plus another 40 more just on opening weekend, especially when people can just go, oh, I'll just wait 5 days. You know, I'll just wait 6 days to go watch it. Like, people are still going to go watch it, but they don't have to see it that opening weekend. And for that reason, because one is about endurance and one is about capacity, I'm going to think that $3 billion has a higher chance of happening first. What do you think?
Well, those numbers you were showing were domestic, were they not?
No,
those are worldwide?
Well, first of all, opening weekend, you only ever count domestic for opening weekend numbers.
Right.
So, yeah, so those are domestic.
But
Overall,
the $3 billion is worldwide.
Yeah, $3 billion. So these numbers here are all worldwide numbers. These numbers are all worldwide.
Right, which I'm going to say that there is, I think first of all, you only have a finite number of theaters.
Yes.
You know, there's only a finite number of movie theaters. But I do think that we are on the cusp. I mean, 257 million is close. That's within striking distance, you know, and if you have an event movie like, say, Avengers Endgame, and they have enough we're having 24-hour screenings, you know, I think we're closer to a $300 million opening weekend than we are $300 billion. But I do think that a $300 billion or a $3 billion opening is close. I think both are close, but I think we're going to have a $300 million domestic opening first.
Yeah, see, I wish I could agree. It's just that I felt like with Infinity War, we were already seeing all the major theaters running 24-hour screenings with them all packed out. Is there another $43 million worth of chairs even available when an average filmgoer can just go, oh, sold out? Okay, I'll just wait till next Tuesday and I'll go see it.
It depends. You know, we are now 9 days away from the opening of Captain Marvel.
Yes, sir.
That means I am quite sure we are going to get the Big Bang trailer for Avengers Endgame in the next 8 days. And depending on what we see, I think maybe 300 million could be in the realm of possibility. Depending on what we see. It's
possible. Here's an interesting thing. There are reports saying right now that that the tickets for Avengers Endgame may go on sale on April or March, or they're saying April 2nd right now. They're saying that the tickets for Avengers Endgame may go on sale on April 2nd. And if that's the case, there is a good chance that that Big Bang trailer we've been talking about could drop on the same day. So they drop that trailer and say, tickets available now, and create that initial rush. So I know that maybe they drop it with Captain Marvel. Maybe they wait till that April 2nd date. But I don't know. It'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see how this all turns out. I don't even know that Endgame will make as much opening weekend as Infinity War did. Because I just don't sense the same kind of build-up to it amongst average film fans that Infinity War did, which is just last year. So, I don't know,
dude. I don't know.
It'll be interesting. Look, I think we can all agree it's going to be huge. It's going to be ridiculously, monstrously huge. I mean, right?
I'll tell you. Oh, sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you didn't. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I'm really getting excited for Captain Marvel. I got to tell you, they keep dropping these little like promo trailers and snippets here and there, and seeing other clips, and I'm getting pretty jazzed about it. I'm
going to see it Monday. I've
got tickets for opening night at the Cinerama Dome, as I am wont to do, and I can't wait. I can't wait.
Yeah, I'm getting excited for it too. Well, here's hoping it's not another Iron Man 2. All right, what is the next topic today, Ashley?
Next up is Cody Masters. Hey, John. So May is looking pretty stacked with Detective Pikachu, Aladdin, Brightburn, Rocketman, Godzilla, and many other films releasing in May. My question is, how the hell will John Wick 3 fare? Should it switch release dates? Does it have anything to worry about? I've been looking forward to Chapter 3 ever since I saw Chapter 2 in theaters, and I want it to murder the competition. Keep up the great work and bring on the filthy.
Rob, what do you think? I mean, there is a lot of stuff opening up in May, as May is wont to do. There's a lot of stuff opening up in May. Can John Wick 3 hold its own in such a busy month like that?
Well, basically, John Wick 3 is opening on my birthday. The powers that be in Hollywood, pretty much May 15th. It's opening a little after May 15th, like 2 days, but I'll go to an early screening. And I think our viewer has answered his own question. I think John Wick has its own built-in audience that cannot wait to see it. John Wick rides a horse through the streets of New York. I don't know what's more exciting than that. And he's going to be shooting dudes off motorcycles while he's doing it in the head. I mean, I think this video game generation, John Wick is probably the greatest hero we have, because nobody gets better headshots than John Wick. And I think the entire world, I mean, I don't think there's a more eagerly awaited part 3 to a trilogy since Return of the King.
I mean, I suppose Thor should have taken some lessons for John Wick and gone for the head. Okay, so here's the thing about John Wick. It's actually not. Look, there are some high profile films coming in May. There are, but it's actually not that stacked of a month. It's May, which is now a summer season movie month, and you've got some competition in there. But you really don't have a lot, particularly of this kind of movie. You can't look in May and say, there's another movie that's really anything quite like John Wick. So, for instance, you've got it opening against things like Pokemon or Detective Pikachu. Yeah, but they're really going for very different audiences. And the other thing I think we need to keep in mind is this. Let's not pretend that John Wick is some box office monster film series. It's simply not. And nor does it need to be. Like the first John Wick movie worldwide, this isn't opening weekend, this isn't domestic, this is worldwide total. The first John Wick film made $88 million. $88 million. The second one nearly doubled, but still $171 million. I mean, so it's not like this is a series that's blowing the doors off the box office, but here's the important thing. It doesn't need to. They make these movies so financially responsible that they can make $88 million and be like, okay, let's make another one, because they're so financially responsible. They don't spend $120 million on making these movies. And so you can take a movie like John Wick, like it's different than, say, I don't know, a movie like, let's say you wanted to do one for The Flash, or you wanted to do one for Hawkeye, whatever. Those are films you're probably going to spend $100 to $140 million on. Therefore, they're movies that need to make $300-400 million at the box office to break even. John Wick's not one of those. So, yeah, they're dropped in there. It's a very unique film amongst all the other films that are opening, and it doesn't have to make $200 million to be a moneymaker. So when you ask the question, how well, like, do I think John Wick is going to be okay? The answer to that is absolutely it's going to be okay, because I think it can very comfortably hit that 175, 200, 205 box office number. And that's all it's got to do to be profitable, successful, and even make them think about another one. So, yeah, Rob, do you see any problems for a John Wick 3 hitting like 175?
No, not at all. John Wick is what I call a secondary market movie, in that it's developed its popularity on home video, on streaming platforms when people are catching up with it, because obviously you saw the rise in box office. I mean, it did double its initial take because it's R-rated. You know, they're not pandering, but they're not going for a 4-quadrant audience. They're going for people who want to see Keanu Reeves shoot dudes in the head. You know, and I want that. But you know, that is not the majority of the movie going population. I mean, I get the same buzz from a John Wick movie that I got from watching John Woo movies in the early 90s, like A Better Tomorrow and The Killer, and especially Hard Boiled, you know, watching Chow Yun Fat cap dudes in the face. And I think that John Wick, I mean, first of all, John Wick it takes place in this milieu. It's got this great world building. Everybody's well dressed, everybody's beautiful, everybody's slick, everybody's deadly, and apparently New York City is full of assassins, which I'd like to believe is true. So there's a whole realm of things that tickle my fancy in the John Wick franchise, and I can't wait to see this movie. And I think a lot of people are like me.
John, I think we need to rent Robert a horse to run around on his birthday.
All three of us should get a horse and just go through the streets of LA with the cops.
Mm-hmm.
That's a photo shoot right there. We should set up. We should get Rob in a nice 3-piece black suit with a tie, put him on a horse, the whole bit. I think that's some.
You know, I used to teach kids how to ride. I used to go to a horse camp called the Flying Horseshoe Ranch in Cle Elum, Washington.
Amazing.
I was at summer camp there. I used to teach kids how to ride horses.
I learned something new about you every day.
Yeah.
Exactly.
All right.
I was in the Tin Horns riding group.
Oh, wow. All right. Let's move on to the next email today. What's next, Ashley?
Next up is David Buzid. Greetings, John. With all the discussion about the future of physical media and streaming on your show, I found this story really interesting. Apparently, Samsung, the #1 maker of Blu-ray and 4K players in the world, has announced they're not going to make them anymore. Is this the most tangible sign so far that physical media is in its final days? Thanks.
Yeah, it really is. Now, look, I've been saying for a while, physical media is going to be gone pretty soon. I've been a streaming guy for years. I cut my ties with physical media a while ago, and all this kind of stuff for years. But the fact of the matter is, there's still been a lot of stuff out there for Blu-ray and 4K, and whether it's players or the media itself, there's still been a lot of options and a lot of people that still really like this stuff. And so I have not been hoping for the demise of Blu-ray by any stretch of the imagination, because there's a lot of people who really like it. However, the writing has been on the wall. Here's some numbers. Just in the last couple of years alone, in 2016, 5.6 million Blu-ray or Blu-ray 4K players were sold. That dropped significantly in 2017 down to 4.8 million, which then dropped again significantly in 2018 down to 2.4. You're looking at a 20% drop in unit sales in just 2 years. So the writing kind of came on the wall. Samsung, who is the #1 producer of these things and the #1 seller of Blu-ray material, they recently announced also a partnership with Apple where you will be able to natively on all future Samsung televisions access iTunes, AirPlay, all that kind of stuff natively built into Samsung televisions. With things like Roku players and Apple TV players taking off like crazy, with the increased popularity of smart TVs with a lot of media stuff or Roku's built right into them. Actually, the TV Ann and I just bought for our bedroom has a Roku system built into the TV already. The writing kind of came on the wall, and they announced that they were no longer doing this. Now, the interesting thing about this is that where Samsung goes, the rest of the industry seems to follow, because Samsung was actually the first major television manufacturer to stop production on 3D capable televisions. Shortly after that, one by one, the other makers started to drop 3D from their things as well. Now, right now, this will leave Sony as the new number one provider of 4K stuff. And you'll probably see a little bit of a boost for Sony in the short term. But I think the way you put this in your email is absolutely accurate. This is the most tangible, real sign that the end is coming for physical media. And with Samsung, the number one provider, dropping out. And by the way, Oppo, which I owned a number of Oppo devices, they
were
dropped
beautiful.
out. They were well done, right?
Oh.
And it was about a year ago that they stopped producing these things as well. But that was just a blip on the radar. Samsung dropping out is pretty major and significant. So I don't know, Rob, you had a chance to see this story. Your thoughts on Samsung dropping out of Blu-ray, and what does this mean for Blu-ray moving forward?
I did a little research myself. I didn't make a cool, slick infographic, but I've got something here to read for you.
Okay.
According to the Digital Entertainment Group's 2018 Home Entertainment Report, we as consumers spent more than ever on video last year, $23.3 billion, up 11.5% from 2017. Of that number, subscription streaming, led by Netflix, Amazon Prime Video, and Hulu, took the lion's share with a 30% year-over-year rise to $12.9 billion.
Holy crap.
We also bought and rented another $4.55 billion worth of online movies and TV shows. Check that out. But Blu-ray, even with the growing popularity of 4K Blu-ray movie and TV show sales, they only came to $4.3 billion, which was a 14.6% drop.
Are you
from 2017.
Serious?
Now, I have, as you know, I was a retailer, a video retailer all through the 80s, and then I produced content for 15 years. The number had been 10% a year. The drop in physical media sales was 10% a year. A 14.6% drop in 2018 is precipitous. And I think, and there's no reason to think it's going to slow down or even it'll probably speed up. And with Samsung dropping out of the market, and my friend Bill Hunt over at the Digital Bits went to the Consumer Electronics Show this year and famously mentioned that there were only 3 new optical disc players being introduced on the market for 2019. 3. There used to be dozens.
Yeah.
And one of the problems on this posting that I had made, a friend of mine, Martin Horowitz, pointed out that optical discs should be a much higher capacity and performance, and the growth of the tech was stunted by content organizations. You can get 1 terabyte of data onto micro SD cards, and a Blu-ray, its top capacity is 50 gigabytes. Think about it, 1 terabyte on a micro SD card, which we're all using in our cameras and our recording devices. The Blu-ray technology, I hate to say it because kids are always like, you, Rob, you're always screaming like an old man about your optical discs.
Get off my lawn.
But the fact is, they're right. Optical disc technology is mired in the 20th century and 20th century thinking. And I hate to say it, but I honestly believe, and I pity the fool who thinks different. I pity myself because I am the fool. I'm going to be buying optical discs until they pry them from my cold, dead fingers, but I think that's going to be about 2 or 3 more years. But there's always going to be, there's going to be, like, Mondo is still pressing vinyl. There's always going to be Shout or Shout and Scream. There's always going to be places like Arrow who are going to release cult titles, and Vinegar Syndrome will still release things like Liquid Sky. But we're on the downside of physical media, and I give it 5 years. Laserdiscs were killed overnight by DVD.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, who cares about, but I'm in the habit. Like, I'm like, ooh, what's coming out on Blu-ray? This is a habit I picked up 39 years ago. And it's a 20th century habit, and I hate to say it, and I feel terrible, and I'm going to hug my Blu-ray shelf until I'm dead.
But you brought up vinyl, and this was the point I wanted to make, is that, vinyl has been a dead technology for a long time, right? But it's still there. Mm-hmm. I mean, it has no real presence, but it's still there. And do you think, Rob, that maybe things like Blu-ray, there will always be enough of a niche market for it that somebody will continue to manufacture it? Because look, as the big players drop out, Samsung, and then eventually Sony and LG will probably drop out. But do you think that will create an opportunity for a niche market kind of thing where, hey, you know what, there are still people out there who like the stuff, like there are people who like getting vinyl. And so there'll at least be something there. So where people like you who really value the physical media stuff, do you think it could still be there for them, or do you think it just may disappear altogether?
I honestly think it's going to disappear altogether. The difference between vinyl and say an optical disc is vinyl costs a fraction to produce.
Right,
you know,
right.
like I'll just give you an example. You know, yesterday I couldn't be on this show with you lovely people because I was participating in the final sound mix of a short film that I had edited. Now, that short film was finished to a file. You know,
Right.
We're not out. I mean, I'm going to personally burn myself a Blu-ray because I want to be able to listen to it in 5.1 on my thunderous home theater system. But for the most part, it's a file. We can now send it. Not that we're doing that, but we can send it around the world instantaneously now. We don't have to incur shipping charges. I don't have to burn it to a disc. I don't have to buy packaging. I don't even have to have key art designed if I don't want to. I can now send this finished film anywhere on the planet with a WeTransfer link. And the fact is, it's expensive to transfer films into a file format, especially if you're dealing with old films in negative. You're looking at a cost of $100,000 to scan old negative. That's just to scan a movie. I was pricing out how much it's going to cost to put my film Free Enterprise on any file format, and I have to scan the negative, and you're looking at $88,000, even cheap.
Wow.
Now, and to press vinyl, to press an album, is not nearly that expensive. And, you know, I think, look, hipsters and DJ culture has kept vinyl alive. And I think it's cool. But even vinyl, it's like at the end of the day, at the end of the day, who's going to care? I mean, people, young people, Ashley, you guys don't want stuff. And I mean, look at
stuff.
Well, yeah, but you don't want, like, you don't need you don't need a John Cusack high fidelity wall of vinyl.
No.
You know, you don't need that.
Yeah.
And I just think I hate to say it because I'm going to cry giant tears into my teacups, and I'm just going to brew tea in the tears I cry for the loss of physical media, but it's going away.
All right. Well, so everybody might as well spill out a drink tonight for Blu-ray because it seems to be coming to an end. All right, guys. Well, how do you feel about that? Jump down in the comment section and let us know your thoughts. All right, Ashley, what is the final email of the day?
Last one is Noah Ruby. Hey there, Campea crew. I was so happy watching the Oscars when Into the Spider-Verse won the award. It was easily my favorite movie of 2018. I've been excited about a sequel, but I just read that Bob Persichetti, the director of the movie, just signed on to direct Puss in Boots 2. Why would Sony not lock this guy in to direct the Spider-Man sequel, and why wouldn't he want to do it?
You know, yeah, so those of you who didn't catch this, because a lot of people was like, wait a minute, time out, didn't Lord Miller direct Spider-Verse? No, Lord Miller didn't direct the Spider-Verse one. They were producers on it. They did not direct it. The interesting thing about Bob here is that he was actually credited on Puss in Boots as head of story. So he didn't direct the original Puss in Boots, but he was connected to that film. Spider-Man and the Spider-Verse was the first film that he directed. How's that? How's that for coming out of the gate? The first film you direct ends up winning Best Picture, Best Animated Picture at any rate, at the Academy Awards. Not bad. So, question. Why would he jump ship from Spider-Man into the Spider-Verse and go over to do Puss in Boots? I think there's two answers to that. Number one, he has roots with Puss in Boots, as we already kind of pointed out. He worked in the animation department, and he was a credited head of story on it. So for him, there might be a little bit of a going back home kind of feel to that, which is interesting. Not to mention, I'm down for a Puss in Boots, for another Puss in Boots. I think it's a charming character. I'm down for seeing another one. But I think the second reason he's willing to jump ship from Spider-Man and go over to Puss in Boots is because who says he's jumping ship? Lots of people work on one movie, go off, do some other movies, and then come back for the sequel. We know Sony wants to do another Spider-Man in the Spider-Verse, but who says they're going into production on it tomorrow? They are getting moving. Now, it is totally possible that we may have new director and new directors, because he directed with another person as well. We may get new directors for Spider-Man in the Spider-Verse. Maybe they want to get into the production on this fairly quickly, and maybe they're moving on without him. But until they officially announce that, it's not official. But again, it's just, it could be for him a matter of thinking, hey, it's time to go home. I'm going to go back to where I really made some big strides with my career, this other franchise. If I can do it with Spider-Man and I can do it with another franchise as well, it might position him very, very well in the industry. So, I don't know. Rob, you direct an animated film that, let's say free enterprise, that it's not animated, but you direct a movie free enterprise. It's the first major motion picture you direct. And it wins Best Picture at the Oscars. However, you have the opportunity to go and work on a Lord of the Rings film that you had some involvement with before. Do you stick around for Free Enterprise 2, or do you go and direct a new Lord of the Rings film? Or how do you think Bob's mind is working right now in all this? Why do you think this type of move is being made?
Well, I'm looking here at Box Office Mojo, and the worldwide box office of the first Puss in Boots was $554,987,477.
Yep,
That's
not bad.
Cheddar. That's over $500 million.
Not bad. Not bad at all.
Not bad at all. I think a Puss in Boots 2, they want to make this. He just won Best Picture. His quote goes up. So my boy is going to get some payday. And, when you've won Best Picture, there's only ever one place to go, and that's down. He won Best Picture directing Into the Spider-Verse. So now he's going to go take the challenge of Puss in Boots 2 that he didn't direct. Maybe he's going to be able to be innovative and do something interesting with it. And with that $500 million price tag on the first film and a Best Picture win for Best Animated Film, he's in a position to get paid. And I think that's where it really comes down to. And he probably, because he was in the story department, he probably had a lot of great ideas that didn't get used, because the story departments in animation, come up with 100 ideas for every one idea that we see. And I'll bet he has a great idea to make Puss in Boots 2 out of, and it'll be a slam dunk for him. And he's probably going to make between $500 and $1 billion with the sequel.
And you raise up the question of money here, because there's a principle at work here that I think is also at work in sports. A guy wins MVP on his team, his value suddenly becomes bigger. And we've seen this happen 1,000 times. Other teams are now willing to pay that dude more than his own team may be willing to pay him.
Yeah.
And I think you struck the nail on the head. I think you're also looking at a situation here where he is going to get a much more lucrative offer to go over, and probably with back-end points, to go and direct like a Puss in Boots 2, then Sony may be like, we don't need you. We'll put somebody else in, or like, we'd like to have you back, but we're not willing to pay you as much as probably a lot of other suitors are willing to do it. And you brought up a magic number there. Spider-Man and the Spider-Verse, as much as it was my number 3 favorite movie of the year, let's not over-exaggerate how big of a success it was financially. It made $300-something million at the box office, which was good enough to break even and make a little bit of money. But Puss in Boots, which was like 10 years ago, makes over $500, close to $600 million at the box office. So if they're offering him a much bigger payday, and if they might even offer him points on this thing, it becomes kind of a hard offer to turn down.
There's also something else to consider. I mean,
What's that?
with Into the Spider-Verse, you had Lord Miller, who were very strong producers because
Yes.
they are themselves directors. And he had probably a lot of input that he had to deal with from other people. In addition to getting some fat cheddar to do Puss in Boots 2, he also probably has creative control, which is something he hasn't had in the past. And when you have creative control, look, the most attractive thing for anybody working in Hollywood is a big payday coupled with creative control. So you don't have to deal with too many cooks in the kitchen. And that is the best of both worlds scenario. And I bet he got that from Puss in Boots 2.
Yeah, at least to a degree, at least to some degree. I think you're probably absolutely right. All right, guys, that will do it for all the main topics we have here on the show. But as we like to do here on the John Campea Show, we like to save a little bit of time to take some of your live questions. You guys have been firing in a lot of live questions, so let's not waste any time and get right to it. Ashley, what are people asking in the live board today?
Okay, I was going to start with the one from yesterday because we couldn't answer it on behalf of Rob. It was,
Sure.
Rob, are you familiar with Cool as Ice? It's a comic series, Kill. Are you familiar with comic series Kill or Be Killed? There's 20 issues.
Yes, and Kill or Be Killed is amazing. If it's Ed Brubaker, and Ed Brubaker basically wrote the Winter Soldier arc on for Marvel Comics that the movie was based on. The character obviously came from that comic series. It's amazing. It's basically about a kind of this loser dude who might have a demon inside him. Let's just say, I don't want to ruin it for anybody, but it's a great comic series. The art is incredible, and everybody should read it. It's been collected into graphic novel form, and I love Kill or Be Killed.
All right, what do we got next?
All right, Ben Jesusa, I thought I couldn't get any more excited for Detective Pikachu from watching that new trailer. Jaw-dropping moment, seeing Meowth. Also hope you had a great B-Day yesterday, John.
I did have a great birthday, by the way. Thank you so much. And yeah, I saw the first trailer. I'm like, I loved it, but I'm like, is that a fluke? And then the second trailer came out, even better. And like we said earlier, Ben, it's this whole thing of they seem to have this great balance right now of putting in material that is appealing to the original fans, like the Mewtwo popping up, and to people who know nothing about Pokemon or Pikachu or whatever, and they're just making it look like a great film in general. But yeah, I was talking, because Anne knows Pokemon, so when Mewtwo popped up, she was like, so that was good to see. And I'm sure there were a lot of people around North America last night seeing that and going, like getting very, very excited about Mewtwo. And even the people who didn't even know who it was were probably looking and goes, ooh, I bet that looks like that's the bad guy. Like, everybody. So again, this is a difficult project to market. How do you get people excited for a Detective Pikachu movie? They have done a phenomenal job. Whoever they've got running their marketing, give them a raise, because they have done a phenomenal job with this, and it's going to pay off, I think, with a massive opening weekend. Like I said, I'm guessing $75 to $85 million range, maybe bigger, and that's just a testament to how good they've marketed this film.
I didn't know your wife spoke Pokemon.
She does. She speaks being Filipino, she speaks every language.
Oh.
She can just speak them all. She can speak them all. All right. She can speak Chinese. She can speak Tagalog. She can speak Pokemon. There you go. And Pikachu. All right. What's next?
All right. Jay Bling, what is your biggest armchair quarterback movie? A movie so frustratingly lousy, made with such staggering incompetence and filled with such wasted potential that it made you feel that you could have done it better.
You know what? A lot of us will see a movie that we feel is bad and say, utilizing a lot of hyperbole, saying, I could have done better than that. When the reality is, no, you couldn't. And no, I couldn't, for the most part. It's very, very rare that I've watched a movie that was so bad that even I thought, oh, guys, even I could have done a better job than that. Because it's so unbelievably bad that it becomes conceivable that even I might have been able to do a better job than that. And that's got to be pretty bad. The one that comes to mind that I remember walking out of the theater, like shell-shocked by how bad it was, how bad at least I found it personally, and thinking about all the different things I would have done with it, was Assassin's Creed. I really thought Assassin's Creed was that bad. And I've seen movies that are worse than Assassin's Creed, but I mean, that's the one that I walked out just thinking about how I would have done things differently. But we all think that too. Rob, you got one that you ever thought was so bad that you're like, oh my God, here's what I would have done, and it would have been way better than what they did?
Oh, yes. Star Trek Into Darkness. Star Trek Into Darkness is a movie that is so horribly written that I would rather watch Battlefield Earth on an endless loop than have to suffer through Star Trek Into Darkness again. It is the most ludicrous and stupid big budget science fiction movie ever written. And it's god awful. It's a movie where you're supposed to, when Benedict Cumberbatch actually says, I'm Khan, everyone's looking around at themselves going, why is that supposed to mean something to us? Because they never introduce who he actually is in the movie. And it's brain dead. I hate it. It makes me want to put thumbtacks up my nose so they go into my sinuses, into my brain, so I stop the pain.
I like the movie. Anyway, all right. So
I feel like I definitely could have made a better movie than The Room, but it's so bad that it's so good. But yeah. I mean, they talk about random entrances and like exits, and just, I mean, no one can write a movie that bad, I feel like.
I'd love to see you do a remake of The Room, Ashley. I'd love to see you do a remake. I would pay money to see that movie.
I do not need to do that, but yeah. When I watched it, I was like, what? Okay, Ben Rainier. The Gifted finale equals emotional roller coaster. It's awesome. I think you're going to love. Praying for season 3. Renew The Gifted.
I have not. I'm all caught up except for the season finale. I have not seen the season finale yet. I think this has been a really good season of The Gifted. I really, really like this show. Sadly, the showrunner for The Gifted has pretty much said he doesn't think it's going to get renewed. He doesn't know for sure. And he says, I suppose there's possible that a streaming service may pick us up because although we don't have a big audience, we do have a pretty loyal audience, much like Lucifer did. So maybe that'll be possible. But yeah, it looks like things don't look good. It doesn't look like it's going to get picked up again, which would suck. And I still got to watch the season finale, and I'm going to do that today because I think the show is really, really solid. You should check out The Gifted if you haven't yet. All right, what's next?
Jay Bling. Also, I don't want physical media to end. If I can feel something I own, then it feels like I own it.
I get that. I can identify with that. There's something about the tangible feeling of like holding a disc in your hand. It's like, I own this movie. And look, a lot of people love the old way of setting up bookcases and having your Blu-rays on display. And oh, look at that. What's that one?
It's Kyushu Kurosawa's movie, Before We Vanish. Kyushu Kurosawa is one of my favorite working Japanese directors today. And Before We Vanish is a movie about an alien invasion done in a very different style that I have yet to see, but I just got the Blu-ray from England.
Oh, nice.
How many Blu-rays do you own, Rob?
Oh, good
Probably
question.
about 2,500, somewhere between 2,500 and 3,000.
Nice.
And I know people that own like 20,000. Bill Hunt's got like 25,000 Blu-rays and VHS and DVDs. And by the way, I still have 100 laser discs.
Entire store.
That's how
You
sick
still
I
have
am.
your laser discs.
I'm a sick puppy.
Do you have Okay, wait a second. Do you have a laser disc player?
Yes.
Wow.
I have my Pioneer Elite combi player.
Tell you what, for a very short time, me and my family had a Laserdisc player when I was a little kid. You know what the very first, you'll never guess, but the very first Laserdisc we ever owned was Dan Aykroyd's Dr. Detroit. It was the first Laserdisc we ever owned. That and DC Cab with Mr. T. Those are the first, I don't know why, but those are the first two Laserdiscs my dad picked up. So
you got a Laserdisc player, which was at the time the best NTSC player, and you went and got DC Cab and Dr. Detroit.
The doctor is in. That's right. Dr. Detroit. All right.
Man,
what's next?
I own about 20 VHSs and maybe 20 DVDs, and I love them all. BMC, gonna miss physical media. I don't like my entertainment being limited to my internet connection.
Well, yeah, but look, you can make a valid argument, though. The physical media stuff has many more limitations. Like, you got to have it on you, number one. Like, it's got to physically be there. Like, I can't be on a plane and suddenly go, oh, I feel like watching Infinity War. Well, tough. You don't have your Blu-ray disc there. And even if you did, you don't have a player on you and blah, blah, blah. I mean, and your physical disc can get damaged. So, like, yes, there are advantages and disadvantages to both mediums, but there are probably a lot more, which is why the things are changing, because there are a lot more practical downsides to having to have a physical copy of a disc. But look, and streaming technology, the new compressions that they have and stuff like that, it's just getting better and better. Like right now, is the best Blu-ray a better image than what you'll stream? Yes. But the gap is significantly smaller now than it was a few years ago. And a couple of years from now, they're probably going to be indistinguishable from each other anyway. So, I still get it. I still get the allure of having a physical copy of something, but the differences and the advantages are pretty much disappearing here pretty quick. All right, what's next?
Mad Real Cinema, how do you like Umbrella Academy so far? I loved it. Can't wait for season 2. By the way, can't go wrong with a talking chimp in glasses.
I still remember watching the first episode, and when I forget the name of the character, but when the chimpanzee butler shows up, I'm like, wait a minute, what? I am not jumping up and down and going out of my mind for Umbrella Academy like a lot of people are, but I very much enjoyed it. Like, I liked it a lot. Like, so much so I watched the whole first season in 2 days. I just kept hitting next. So I really did enjoy it, and I can't wait. What's your final kind of verdict on season 1 of Umbrella Academy, Rob?
I loved it. I thought it exceeded the comic books. I thought the casting was great. I thought the storytelling, I would dare say it was Baroque in a way.
Right.
And there is a lot of really heady science fiction concepts in it that I think a lot of people might not be ready for. It's got a little some Philip K. Dick action going on in it, a little shifting realities, shifting time frames. There's all kinds of, and then again, it all comes down to the cast. and it's got a pretty interesting big bad brewing during the entire course of the show. And I love the ending.
Right. All right, let's move on. What's next?
The new Ulysses Smith 3, random but interesting thoughts. I'm no country fan, but if Bradley Cooper did an album, I would buy it. He's that good. Same for Tessa Thompson as it comes to actors doing music.
I don't think Bradley Cooper's that good. What I think Bradley, and we were talking about this because we had a bunch of us over here watching the Oscars, and here's what I think it is there's a reason why in the song Into the Shallows, all the hard stuff to sing is being sung by Lady Gaga and not by Bradley Cooper. Bradley Cooper is not a singer, but he sings really well for a guy who's not a singer. I think that's the best compliment I can give him. I don't think he is a great singer by any stretch of the imagination, but for a guy who's not a singer, he sings pretty damn well. And I think that became very apparent when they performed at the Oscars as well. Like, you could tell one of these two people on stage right now is a true, real singer, and one is not. And it wasn't hard to tell which one was which during that performance. But hey, listen, if I was directing the movie and I'm acting in it and I wanted to sing my own parts, he did a very good job. He did. I mean, I'm a big fan of Bradley Cooper. I've been a big fan of Bradley Cooper ever since Alias, for heaven's sakes. But I don't think he'll be making any albums anytime soon. I don't think he's that good. I think he's great for you. I think he's great for me if you're comparing him to me or to average people. But I don't think he's on that level that he could be a professional singer per se. But anyway, that's just my thought on it. All right, what's next?
And I think he trained for about 6 months, like 20 hours a week, just to get his grumbly voice and his speaking voice and singing voice.
And to sing those specific lines in those specific songs. Yeah, he did. And it came off great. It worked out wonderful.
Mm-hmm. New Ulysses again. John, no fighting with my family review, I guess?
Well, I mean, I didn't do a standalone video of it, but I have reviewed the movie several times during my show. I loved that movie. I did not think it was going to be very good. I didn't know what to expect from it. I only went to go see it because Ray wanted to meet Paige. But the movie had far more heart, far more humor. It was a far better movie than I thought it had any business being. And I quite enjoyed it, as a matter of fact. All right, what's next?
Razor Edge Frisbee. Rob, the wait for Doomsday Clock issue 9 is killing me. What do you think of the series so far? Issue 8 was amazing. Glad I finally get to ask you, LOL.
Oh, as everyone knows, The Watchmen is one of my favorite comic book series of all time. And I have so many problems with Doomsday Clock from its conception. First of all, I think it dishonors what Alan Moore did. But that said, I think what Jeff Johns is doing with the comic and incorporating Watchmen into the DC universe has been interesting. I think it's kind of the best fan fiction ever written, maybe. But it's compared to the original Watchmen, it's like reading a seventh grader's 5-paragraph essay as opposed to a renowned philosopher's comic book treatise, if that makes any sense.
All right, what's next?
Hector Tudor, not a wrestling fan, but loved fighting with my fam.
Yeah, again, guys, check this out. Go check out this movie if you get a chance, because I understand, even if you're not a wrestling fan, this movie is made in such a way that even if you know nothing about wrestling, you are going to be able to identify with the main storylines are shared human experiences. And whether it's about family and loyalty and love and dreams and all that kind of stuff. It's, again, far more heart than you might think and very, very funny. And Nick Frost is one of the big reasons it's so damn funny. So check it out if you get a chance. All right, what's next?
Ben Rayner, don't know how I feel about new X-Men poster. When I first saw it, I swear I thought it was a fan-made Captain Marvel poster.
Like I said, I dig it. Partially because of what Rob was saying about it being very comic book-esque, but it wasn't your traditional just floating heads poster. It had a little bit of symbolism to him with the split screen. Again, nothing terribly original, but I thought it worked quite well for it. Now, again, I don't have high expectations for the movie. I hope it's great, but that's not what I'm hearing. But as far as the poster goes, yeah, I was kind of okay with it. I liked it. All right, what's next?
NPE 94, have you seen Lost City of Z? If so, thoughts?
Yeah, I was late to the party on Lost City of Z, but it's quite good. I was hoping for a little bit more, but the performances were quite good. You've got a number of guys in there that really needed to turn into something big, and they did. The movie never gained any real kind of traction or popularity, unfortunately. Yeah, but I enjoyed it. All right, what's next?
Gabrielle Reed, Thanos is so screwed when the OG Avengers take him on with Captain Marvel. Steve better say, Avengers, assemble.
Rob, I've been saying for a while now that one of the neat things about Avengers Infinity War is that, yeah, while a lot of different people had shots at Thanos, Thanos never had to face the OG Avengers together. Like, he fought Iron Man with a bunch of guys, and he fought Thor with a bunch of people with him, and he fought Captain America with a bunch of people with him, and he fought Hulk one-on-one. But I can't help but wonder that even with the gauntlet, if he had faced Iron Man and Captain America and Hulk and Thor all at the same time, we may have had a different outcome to that movie. Now, you add on top of that Captain Marvel, I think it would have been a different thing. I think that was orchestrated. Do you think that, or do you think it still would have worked out the same way?
You know, I don't think, even if Thanos took on all of the Avengers, he was still going to snap his finger at the end of that movie. You know, I just think that was the story. I mean, Thanos, look, he goes to Earth. He's stuck around. I mean, he could have just taken the Vision's Infinity Stone and zipped off to Titan and snapped his fingers there. Yeah. I think it was a foregone conclusion. And I don't think the Avengers cannot beat Thanos on pure brute strength alone. Look at what happened to the Hulk. They've got to use their intellect and they have to defeat him by not punching, by doing something different. And I think that's what we're going to see in Endgame.
See, I agree. I think that's where the story was going. But I think the reason they had to have all those OG Avengers separated is because that was the only way that it made sense for them to get to that last point with the snapping of the fingers. Because, you know, hey, Doctor Strange gave Thanos a bit of a run for his money. Hulk landed some heavy leather before Thanos turned it around.
He did.
Iron Man got a cut on Thanos' cheek. And I think, you know, then ultimately Thor planted Stormbreaker deep into his chest. I mean, so there was that as well. So I think I agree with you. The story was going to end up there, but they had to have all these major Avengers kind of separated in order for it to get there. It'll be interesting to see what they do moving forward, though. All right, what's next?
Gotta love them movies. Over the years, I've noticed various studios release similar movies around the same time. Bugs Life versus Ants, Shrek versus Monsters, Inc., and now Captain Marvel versus Shazam, among many, many other examples. My question is, how does this happen?
Well, first of all, I mean, thanks for the contribution to the channel. Gotta love the movies. That's huge. Thank you for supporting channel that way. On top of all that, you're leaving out a couple of major ones. Like, for instance, what was it called? Dante's Peak and Volcano. Remember those two? The one with Pierce Brosnan and all that? Also, the biggest example of it probably, Armageddon and Deep Impact. So there was that. We've had competing... right now, there's kind of a race to get a Little Mermaid movie out. Well, how come there a race? Isn't it a Disney thing? No, the original story is open source, and anybody can make a Little Mermaid movie. And right now, you've got there's a little bit of an arms race going on right now to get a Little Mermaid movie done. We've had multiple examples of this. So you're absolutely right. This happens, and it happens a lot over the course of history. So why does it happen? Well, a couple for obvious reasons. One, if they when disaster movies were all the rage and somebody had the idea of a volcano movie, it's like, you know, a volcano movie would be really cool. Let's get our own done. An apocalyptic movie about a giant meteor going to be hitting Earth. Someone else is doing, okay, let's do ours. I mean, so there's a part of it that's capitalizing on the trend. There's a part of it that wants to surfboard on the wave that another studio may create and capitalize on that. Maybe think they can do it a little bit better. Also, let's not forget about Olympus Has Fallen, and what was White House Down? Was that what it's called?
Roland Emmerich movie, yeah.
Yeah, so there was the one with Gerard Butler and the one with Channing Tatum. And one was actually pretty good, the Gerard Butler one. The other one, the Channing Tatum one with Jamie Foxx was so bad. But I loved Olympus Has Fallen. I thought that one was great.
I did too. You know what, though, too, John? There is, Hollywood's not that big of a place.
True.
And when people start thinking, like when there's an idea in the zeitgeist, like when someone talks, then people start developing. I think multiple people start developing the same ideas because they happen kind of at the same time in the pop culture mind, or the whisper stream, or whatever you want to call it. But and this kind of thing happens, and I think movies get developed without studios knowing exactly what's being developed, and they go down the road and suddenly there's two competing films. I don't think anybody wants to do that. They don't set out to do it. It just kind of happens.
And let's not forget, too, just recently, although they were going to be separated by a little bit of a time, there was John Favreau's Jungle Book, and you had Andy Serkis's Mowgli, right? Which were essentially the same thing. One got pushed off because Jungle Book ended up being way better than people thought it was going to be. And so you're absolutely right, gotta love. It happens frequently, and sometimes it's just a race. Sometimes they think they can build off the momentum of each other. Sometimes they just think they can do one better. And sometimes I think it's probably a little bit of dick swinging, to be quite frank with you. I think there's probably a little bit of a human element in that. And Rob raises a great point about the fact that this is a small town. Mm-hmm. And when somebody starts developing an idea, other people hear about it and maybe think they can do it better or be there first or whatever. And it happens. But it's not a new trend. And it's probably going to keep happening for a very, very long time. So let's just get used to it. All right. Thanks so much for that. All right. What is next?
Andrew N. X-Men should be in a different universe, and the Fantastic Four in the MCU. The Fantastic Four weren't born with their powers, so it'll be easier to introduce.
Andrew, from your mouth to God's ears, and you are preaching to the choir, brother. I 100% agree. There's nothing you have to explain. There's nothing you have to do. There is no hard work in bringing the Fantastic Four into the MCU. There's nothing to do there. It's just bring them in. Clean, easy, no problem. The X-Men present a lot of narrative problems that you've got to figure out a way around to make work without, completely being disrespectful to the origin story of the property, right? They are not going to do it, though. I think the MCU is going to put the X-Men into the MCU. I wish they weren't. I think they should keep them as a separate cinematic universe to tell their own stories and all that kind of stuff. But I do not think that's what they're going to do, unfortunately. But like I said, Andrew, brother, you're preaching to the choir, my friend. You're preaching to the choir. All right, what's next?
NPE 94, did you see Emma Thompson's letter? Wow.
Yeah, so Emma Thompson was supposed to be a minor voice in an upcoming, what is it, Skydance? Is it Skydance? Yeah, Skydance animated film. But of course, very, very... with a lot of fanfare, good and bad, John Lasseter was hired on to be the new head of animation there, and which caused a lot of eyebrows to raise, understandably so. And Emma Thompson's decided to step away from the film, and she put out a letter saying, I just don't think it was right because nobody had a choice at Skydance whether or not they wanted to work for John Lasseter. Skydance just kind of brought that. And she raised a good point in her letter. She said, hey, if John Lasseter started his own new company, then everybody has a choice if they want to go and work for that new company. She goes, but at Skydance, you hired this guy and nobody has a choice unless they just want to lose their jobs. Now, do I 100% agree with her? Not necessarily, but she raises some very valid points and some very valid concerns. And it's not the end. It's not the last we're going to hear about this, I guarantee you. All right, what's next?
Gabriel Reed, I think the audience would go nuts if Captain says Hulk smash to Thanos. It would be a cool callback to the first Avengers film. Well,
I'll guarantee you this, Gabriel. It's any circumstance. If Captain America says Hulk smash again, people are going to lose their minds in the audience. Like, I still remember the first time in that first Avengers movie when Cap says Hulk, and Hulk turns and looks at him and goes, smash. And then this big grin on Hulk's face, and he just goes and starts to wreck shop, which was great. Whether he says it to Thanos, whether he says it about Kang the Conqueror, whether he says it to, a nasty milkman who gave Captain America an ugly look, it doesn't matter. If Captain America says Hulk smash again, everybody's going to lose their mind. Do you think, Rob, though, in Endgame, we could see Hulk taking a go at Thanos again?
Hell yeah. There's some payback, son. You know what that's like as an MMF fan or MMA fan. You know what it's like when a rivalry, you get to see two rivals come up against one another again. An audience needs this catharsis. I need to see Hulk smash Thanos in the face repeatedly. I want to see some serious beatdown action. I want Hulk to say at the end, puny Thanos. That's what I want to see.
That would be a lot of fun. All right, what's next?
Ben Rainier, I don't remember all this hate or backlash for Wonder Woman when it came out. Was there this much and we just didn't know?
There was a bunch, but it was never. See, here's the problem, though.
It was all coming from you for Gal Gadot.
Yeah, it was all coming from me. But here's the thing: Gal Gadot Patty Jenkins never made the mistake that, because believe me, there are people out there who are just waiting for anything to be said wrong so they could jump all over it. And Patty Jenkins and Gal Gadot kept their mouths shut. Which was kind of a smart thing. The problem was, as we talked about on yesterday's show, you had Brie Larson. I understood. She understood what she was saying, and I understood what she was saying. But in the midst of her big statement, she put one 13-word sentence together that was just begging people. It was just painting a target on herself when she said, "I don't care what 40-year-old white critics think about this movie." Now, when you read the whole thing, you understand what she meant, but she painted a target on herself when she did that. Now, you would like to think that cooler minds would prevail and people would be rational and look at what's said, but that's not the world we live in. And the fact of the matter is, Warner Brothers never, and Gal and Patty Jenkins never let anything like that be spoken, never let anything like that be said. And again, I think you see, but I guarantee you, if they did make a slip up like that, you would have seen the same thing with Wonder Woman, unfortunately, which is too bad. All right, what's next?
I'm upset. Will you be seeing Madea Family Funeral this weekend?
No, unfortunately not. Look, I have met and spoken to Tyler Perry on a number of occasions. He is one of the coolest guys in the business. To be quite honest with you, he's one of the coolest guys in the business. I will confess I'm not a fan of his films, though. And so this is a franchise that just hasn't worked for me traditionally, so I personally don't have any plans to go see it. Not me. All right,
I love Tyler Perry in Gone Girl. I think he
as an actor, yes, he was amazing in Gone Girl.
He was amazing. I loved him.
And he was also a member of Starfleet High Command.
Yeah, don't go there.
And he was good in it.
But he was good. He was actually good. He was good.
Yeah. All right, what's next?
The new Ulysses. What do you guys think is the best theater to go to, especially for the experience? AMC, Cinemark, Alamo, Draft House, Regal Theater, or Studio Movie Grill?
There's no one definitive answer because like one AMC theater can be different from the next AMC theater. One Regal theater can be very different from the next. In general, my favorite in general movie-going experience is going to a Dolby AMC Prime theater. Just the dual laser projection system, the Atmos sound system, the motorized leather recliners, all that combines into one really enjoyable package to me. I prefer it even well over IMAX. But again, it depends on theater to theater. Rob, do you got a particular go-to that you really like?
Well, the Chinese, it seems cliche, but the Chinese theater, the famous Chinese theater on Hollywood Boulevard, the Big House, they turned it into an IMAX screen. The thunderous sound system, it's laser projection. It's unbelievable. But in terms of a place I like to go to the ArcLight in Hollywood where the Cinerama Dome is, because every experience I have in that particular theater is a good one because it's kind of like the headquarters of the movie industry in a way. But like you said, that AMC Dolby Theater in Burbank at the Burbank 16 is dope.
Yeah, I love going there for that. All right, what's next?
Andrew Garfield. Rob, how far will Quinn Snyder take all the jazz this year?
All the way. For those of you who don't know, I grew up with Quinn Snyder, the head coach of the Utah Jazz. I went to kindergarten with him. I went to elementary school with him. I went to junior high and high school with him. And Quinn Snyder was always one of the greatest. He took our high school basketball team to a state championship when I was a senior in high school. He's also one of the nicest guys I've ever met in my life. And he was also one of the smartest guys I've ever met in my life, and he was handsome and all the girls loved him, and I should have hated him, but you can't hate Quinn Snyder because he's just that awesome.
And they're in the playoffs right now. They're sitting, I think, fifth or sixth in the West right now, a very, very difficult Western division.
Yeah.
And they're opening some eyes over there. All right, what's next?
NPE 94 just read Scorsese's criticism of Rotten Tomatoes. He wrote an essay for The Hollywood Reporter a couple years back. He makes a good case against them.
I don't think he does, as a matter of fact. Look, it doesn't matter who says what. All Rotten Tomatoes is, and look, nobody likes their work being criticized. I understand. All Rotten Tomatoes is an aggregate. That's all it is. It's just a simple mathematical equation. They go out and get the reviews from all the different critics, and they just tell you this percentage of the critics liked it, this percentage of the critics didn't. And that's all they do. I'm quite frankly, even from and by the way, my goat, Steven Spielberg, who I think is the greatest filmmaker of all time. He, other than George Lucas, Steven Spielberg is my hero of heroes forever and ever, amen. But I think even Spielberg has sounded a little bit like a crybaby at times talking about Rotten Tomatoes because, guys, it's just a site that tells you how many of the critics liked a movie. That's all it is. And I've got to ask any director that has a problem with that, why are you so afraid to know what people think about your movie? And so no, I don't think there's any legitimacy. And I've read Scorsese's. I think there's no legitimacy to it. I think if Rotten Tomatoes was some kind of thing that put out their own numbers and made up their own stuff and whatever, then there's something to be said there. But to say we don't think there's inherent value to the audience for somebody just to gather up all the reviews and say this percentage of the critics liked it and this percentage didn't, I've got to ask you why. Why do you think that's such a problem? And I've heard no legitimate argument that. Now, I have no dog in the Rotten Tomatoes race. I really don't care. Rotten Tomatoes kind of lost a lot of my fandom when they did that stupid bullshit where they had that terrible show that they were producing and they try to force you to watch their show. Do you remember when they did this?
Yeah.
They say, we'll reveal what the Rotten Tomatoes meter on this movie is, but you got to tune in and watch our show. Like, they lost me at that point. I think they've done some incredibly stupid things over there, and they have some very, very smart people there, by the way. But I honestly, there is no fundamental problem with any site. And by the way, it's just not, anybody can do it. It doesn't even have to be Rotten Tomatoes. You can go around and do the math and say, hey, welcome to Eddie's movie averages. The average film critic rating on this movie is this. And there, you've done it. I mean, there's just no legitimate argument why somebody shouldn't do that and why it shouldn't be available to people if they want to check it out. So, yeah, I think it's, I just think it's an industry crying about not wanting to be monitored. And I give it no credence. Even when it's somebody as great as Spielberg, even when it's somebody as great as Scorsese, I still think they're completely off their rockers and I think they're completely wrong. But that's just my opinion. All right, what's next?
Synced up. Rob, dost thou have the PS4 Spider-Man hot toy?
I dost not. I don't. You know, I'll tell you, I don't usually buy video game action figures. I have a few. I have like Samanosuke from Onimusha, and I have Dante from Devil May Cry, but that's about it. But that Spider-Man hot toy figure is dope, and I love the costume.
All right, what's next?
Synced up. I'm sick of this Brie Larson crap. Even my dad is one of the people hating on her, and I can't get him to understand what really happened. Oh, well.
Oh, well, indeed. I mean, at some point, you just throw up your arms and go, you know, oh, well. The common sense, rational stuff has been presented. And now it's up to people if they want to embrace the rational, common sense stuff or if they just want to embrace the outrage. And after you've done that, all you can do is put up your hand and say, hey, you be you. Go you be you and just not worry about it anymore. All right, what's next?
Recon Man 85. Physical media ending is stupid. Sound and picture quality cannot stand up to a disc yet, whether streamed or USB. I'm big on picture and sound.
But that's changing. That's changing. I mean, remember the gap between like a Blu-ray image and a streaming image was much bigger just a couple of years ago. They're constantly making it better and better and better. And by the way, it's not stupid because nobody's buying it anymore. That's the thing. It's all market driven. If people were still buying it, you keep making it and selling it. When your sales drop 20% in just 2 years, and every indication is that's the way it's going to keep going, and it's only going to get worse, then it's not a stupid decision for a Samsung or anybody else to go, we can't invest our money in this anymore because people aren't buying it anymore.
I just want to point out, though, that after the coming nuclear apocalypse, we can still set up solar-powered generators to run our physical media devices, and there will be no streaming.
That's you're assuming that the sun doesn't get blocked out by the nuclear apocalypse, though. So
well, then you can make gasoline out of the bodies of everybody left and have gas-powered generators.
Rob, you are nothing if not pragmatic. I like the way you think. All right,
valid point.
What's next?
Suthius 85. Hey guys, in regards to the MCU, I've stopped speculating and theorizing somewhere during phase 2. Because of this, I think I've been more surprised with everything Feige has thrown at us. I love it.
You know what's funny, Suthius? I've been saying for a while that a lot of people ask me, John, what do you want to see in Star Wars Episode 9? John, what do you want to see in Avengers 4? And what I've more and more been saying is kind of like, you know what? I don't have anything I want to see. I don't want to create an expectation in my own head about what they need to do, or else I'll be disappointed, And I'm trying more and more as a film fan, and I haven't always done this, but I'm trying more lately to go, you know what? I don't even want to guess what I want to see in that movie. I just want to let the directors do whatever they're going to do and surprise me. Now, I'll have theories about what I think they may do. I can look at what they've done in the past and what the tendencies of a certain filmmaker are, and then speculate a little bit about what they might do. But as far as what do I want to see in that? Because what I've seen a lot of my friends do is they have a definite checklist of all the things they want to see in some kind of upcoming movie. And if they don't check off those boxes in the movie, then they walk out mad because they didn't do what they thought they should have done. And it's like, I don't want to fall into that. So I really don't have anything about that at all. So I think you've got a very healthy way of looking at that, Suthius. Rob, do you ever walk into a movie with a checkbox and checklist of things that you think to yourself, they better do this or else I'm not going to like it? Like, do you ever do that?
No, I as far as something like, say, episode 9 is concerned, I want to hear a great script. I want to hear the actors say great lines of dialogue that make sense to me. I don't want to hear about another giant planet-killing machine that can apparently fire one shot because it's drained a star. I don't want to sit in that theater and go, wait, what?
Yeah, no, I'm with you. All right, what's next?
Timbula the Spider Monkey. Do you have a favorite James Carpenter score? Love the Halloween score, but the music in Christine is superb.
Rob, do you got one?
I think my favorite, and it's John Carpenter. I think you said James Horner, but you know what? I think my favorite John Carpenter scores are Escape from New York and Prince of Darkness.
Any particular reasons why those stand out to you?
I think that, John Carpenter is the master of the synth score, and his themes are incredible. He even released an album, actually he released 2 albums over the last couple of years called Lost Themes and Lost Themes 2, where he wrote synth themes for movies that don't exist. And they're awesome records. They're awesome. If you love the score for Halloween or The Fog or Escape from New York or Big Trouble in Little China or They Live or Prince of Darkness or In the Mouth of Madness or any of his scores, you will love these albums. They are awesome. All
right. What's next?
Murray Reich finished binging The Umbrella Academy. Wow, it was pretty darn good. Season finale, oh my God. When's the safest to talk spoiler since it's out on Netflix?
Ooh, you know what? Rob, maybe you and maybe we should schedule a time and do an open spoiler discussion on Umbrella Academy. So everybody who's seen it, we can actually just get together and flesh it out. That's actually a really good idea, Murray. If you're down for that, Robert, I think we should set that up.
That's a great idea. I love that. Let's talk Umbrella Academy. Let it rain, let it rain, let it rain, and we'll open our umbrellas.
So there you go, Murray. You got everybody. Thank Murray because you got this on the wheels of motion. We'll get that set up probably this week sometime. So keep your eyes open. All right, we still got time for a few more. What's next?
Mad Real Cinema. Which movie do you think will have the best epic ending battle, Endgame or Godzilla? I think it'll be close.
Ooh.
Oh, no, it's not going to be close. It's going to be Endgame. It's going to be Endgame. Godzilla will have a great battle. Godzilla will have because I like the end battle in the first Godzilla movie, by the way. And I think it'll be very good. But it's Avengers Endgame with Iron Man and Cap and Thor and the Guardian, like everybody's coming back, and Spider-Man and Black Panther and blah, blah, and Thanos and whoever else new enemies are and blah, blah. It's going to be Endgame. Like, to me, I have no doubt it's going to be Endgame. What about you, Robert?
Well, you're probably right, but dude, watching Ghidorah and Godzilla running at each other full tilt in a city.
It'll be great. It'll be great.
Talk about, I'm sitting there like the 4-year-old kid that's never left me is sitting there clapping his hands and bouncing up and down, and I can't wait to see that nonsense. Yes.
Yeah, it is going to be great. I just think the greatness of Endgame is probably going to top it, but we're going to find out pretty soon. We're going to find out soon. All right, what's next?
Jim Boyers. Hello, all. Rob and John, I became a Patreon supporter for both of you today.
Awesome. Thanks, man.
Figured it was time to start paying for all the verisimilitude and filthy.
I have to say, Mr. Boyers is a former police officer, and he wrote me one of the nicest letters I've ever received from anyone ever.
I thought you were going to say he wrote you a nice ticket because you said he's a police officer.
No,
okay.
he wrote me one of the most heartfelt and nicest letters that I've ever received, and he is an OG geek like I am. He is an original geek, and his geek foo runs deep. So thank you, Jim, for that support. I appreciate it, man.
Yeah, from me as well, Jim. Thank you so much. And you certainly don't have to do that, but we really are appreciative that you do. And thank you for supporting the channel and all that kind of good stuff as well. Thanks a lot for that. All right, what's next?
Nathan Oswald. There was an Elvis biopic in 1979. It was made for TV movie starring Kurt Russell and directed by John Carpenter.
And it's good.
Somebody asked me the other day, Rob, that this came up. This is kind of a follow-up to a question that was on the show the other day. Somebody asked, hey, do you think it's almost time for an Elvis biopic? And I said, well, I don't know who the rights belong to, all that kind of stuff. I said, but by the way, there's a great Elvis biopic out there right now. It's called Bubba Hotep. And have you seen Bubba Hotep?
Dude, directed by the great Don Coscarelli, who directed Phantasm, one of my favorite horror movies of all time.
Bubba Hotep is so good. It's so
awesome.
ridiculous. Like, you're watching, you think, who thought this up? Who thought this up? I mean, it's so ridiculously good. Paul Giamatti as the Colonel. I mean, it's so great. Guys, if you have not seen Bubba Hotep, please get a couple of buddies together and sit down and watch Bubba Hotep. You won't regret it. I've always just been mad they didn't do a sequel. Because remember, they were talking about doing Bubba Nosferatu?
Yep.
And then it just kind of fell apart, and which sucks. I wanted to see that so bad.
Well, it's Bruce Campbell.
Yeah.
The great Bruce Campbell from
It's
Evil
Ash
Dead
himself. All right, what's next?
Chet sent in a super chat.
Oh, thank you, Chet.
David Willard. Hi, all. One of my favorite movies as a kid was The Secret of Nimh. I heard a while back that they were going to do a live action adaptation of it.
I have not heard that. I did hear some talk about maybe trying to do a remake of Secret of Nimh. I don't remember. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm just saying I don't remember off the top of my head hearing about a live action thing. That was like, when I was a kid, that was like the animated movie I loved.
It was so good.
Oh, what was it? Nicodemus and the owl and just like, and what was the main Mrs. It wasn't Mrs. Potts.
I was trying to Mrs. It's not McGillicuddy. It's
I can't remember the mother's name, but they're trying to like get their home moved so they don't. I mean, because the husband. I mean, it's dark.
And Don Bluth Studios made that movie, and
and it's for an animated film. It's dark. It really is, and I love The Secret of Nimh. I would love to see them take another swing at that. I really would. All right, what's next?
May Borowski, I think Detective Pikachu will be a game changer, not only the best video game movie, but also the biggest box office.
It's hard to say off the top of my head because I can't remember like box office totals for a lot of the video game movies. None of them have been, I don't think, huge. Look, and I know technically there is a Detective Pikachu video game. I'll be honest with you, I will not count this as a video game movie. I really don't. I don't consider this a video game movie. Now, you could probably technically make an argument that it is, but I just honestly don't consider. Would you consider it a video game movie, Rob?
I don't. I mean, I think it's because Pokemon was not exclusively ever a video game. It didn't start out as a video game. So, that's like saying Star Wars is now a successful video game adaptation.
Right.
Because, so I agree with you. I think it's a multimedia, it's a transmedia phenomenon,
All right, let's take two more. What's next?
Patrick Conway, where Team Rocket and Meowth Pikachu versus Meowth epic.
I don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
Yeah, dude. Meowth.
I have no idea. You're speaking completely Greek to me at that point. Yeah,
I used to have a stuffed Meowth.
What is Meowth?
Meowth is a cat Pokemon character.
So is it the same as Mew versus Mewtwo in the first one, or was Meowth
sort
a
of?
Different...
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, I don't know I was a first generation Pokemon guy because I used to cut Pokemon commercials for kids WB.
That's awesome.
Back in the late 90s, early 2000s. And that's my only understanding of Pokemon. And then of course I messed around with Pokemon Go when it first came out because it fascinated me for about a week.
Oh my God. Pokemon Go. I just remember for like 3 weeks, everywhere you would go, driving up and down the streets, like people like doing this, and my wife Anne was obsessed with it. Like,
well, you got to find those rare Pokemon, dudes. Sometimes they were in Griffith Park. You never know. They were everywhere.
Got to collect them all. All right, let's go to our last question of the day.
Runyon Canyon, full of them.
I never got into it, but people, man, they loved that. Aaron H, not sure where this idea of there being a bigger threat other than Thanos in Endgame is coming from. Why set up Thanos for 11 years to then say, oh, you think this guy is scary? Check out this dude.
Well, Aaron, you know what? You raise a really good point. It would seem a little anticlimactic in some way, but I mean, it all depends on how they set it up, Robert. Like, we haven't seen the movie. They may set it up perfectly. But I agree with you, Aaron. You raise a valid point. On its surface, you spend 10 years in all these movies setting up Thanos, and you start the conclusion with Thanos only to hot swap him out for a different big baddie. I will admit, on its surface, that sounds sketchy. On its surface, that sounds sketchy. Now, again, though, it is Kevin Feige. It is the Russo brothers. I'm sure if they were doing that, they would find a very good, solid narrative way to do it that makes sense. But I can't disagree with your starting logic, though. That does seem an odd thing to do. Rob, what do you think?
Well, yeah, but here's the thing. Thanos already won. Like, he accomplished his goal. So if you go back and you replay the story, like whether they travel through time and try stopping him from not doing it, I mean, he already did it. So it's like, so what are they supposed to go do? It's not like it's a rematch. I mean, Thanos is sitting on his planet somewhere looking at the sunrise and smelling the flowers. He already won. So it's like, what else are they going to do? I don't think that stopping Thanos from snapping the universe, half the universe out of existence, is going to be what this movie's really about. I think it's about something else.
And we are going to find out soon what that something else is. And with that, guys, that will wrap up another installment of the John Campea Show. Hey, for all you guys who still have outstanding questions there waiting to be answered, Dylan, Avenge the Chicken, Murray, all that kind of stuff, don't worry, guys. All the questions you sent in, they will be answered in a video later today, a companion video that I will make later, and all your questions will get answered. We just ran out of time right now for the live show. Speaking of which, I want to thank the people who joined me on this live show. First of all, the one and the only Mr. Robert Meyer Burnett. Robert, where can people find you and your Blu-ray collection?
You can find me on Twitter at BurnettRM. Find me on Instagram at RMBurnett, where I'm always posting Blu-ray pictures. Or find me on my website, theburnettwork.net, or my YouTube channel, The Burnett Work.
And, of course, the VHS collecting, Ashley Whalen. Ashley, where can people find you?
That's right. You guys can find me on Twitter at AshAttack1 or on my Instagram at Ashley Whalen.
And you guys can, of course, follow me on Instagram, simply at John Campea. Again, keep your eyes open a little bit later for the companion video that will be coming. Now, a lot of you guys have been asking me, where is Weekly Hero? Where is the Weekly Hero? In the midst of all the transition of something, we're going to be starting back up the Weekly Hero again next week. So we're starting it back up in March. So it starts back up in March. So there will be no Weekly Hero today, just so you know, but it will be back next week, starting off the week in March, and that's when it will return. So keep your eyes open for that. That'll do it for us for now, guys. Thanks a lot for being here. My name's John Campea, and until the next video, bye-bye.